Alabama is going on the road to take on Ole Miss. This game is going to be played this Saturday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on CBS. We all know that this season, this Alabama team has struggled on the road. And even though this Bama team hasn't performed well on the road, Vegas still has them as a 12-point favorite going into this game. And what's funny is that, Alabama, after their loss to LSU, all everybody has been talking about is, is this the fall of Alabama football? Alabama football is on the decline. Like, listen, I understand that Alabama has not played well on the road. But let's also think about this. It took LSU a 2-point gamble in overtime to win the game. On the road against Tennessee, they only lost that game by 3 points despite having 17 penalties for 130 yards. They barely beat Texas. But yet, nobody talks about Alabama's best performance on the road this year, which was their game against Arkansas. And they beat the Razorbacks 49-26 without their best player in Bryce Young. And we all know what Bryce Young means to Alabama football. He pretty much has been the heart and soul of the Tide this season. But people act as if Alabama is not capable of performing well on the road when they are. You see, I don't know how many of you guys watching this listen to my NFL content as well and keep up with the NFL. But last week, the Rams lost to the Buccaneers. And on the final couple of possessions, something funny occurred. So Tom Brady drives all the way down the field. He gets the Buccaneers into the red zone. They get into a 4th and goal situation. The Rams get the stop. And you would think at that point, the Rams would be able to chew the remaining time left on the clock and win the game. However, they get conservative. They run the ball 3 times and they punt and they give Tom Brady another chance. And what does he do? He makes you pay. You cannot give Tom Brady extra opportunities. And when you look at Alabama, let's be honest. If they were to run these games back against LSU and Tennessee, how many times do you think Alabama would lose in these rematches? I would say not too many. It takes a Super Bowl-like performance to beat Alabama. When you beat Alabama, it's the highlight of your season. Tennessee beat Alabama a couple weeks ago, and Vols fans are still talking about it. It's crazy. And for Alabama, their struggles on the road this season hasn't really been the fact that they don't have the talent, because talent really isn't the issue. The problem has been the coaching. Bill O'Brien, their defensive coordinator. I mean, Nick Saban knows he has to make changes. If we know he has to make changes, I'm pretty sure he knows he has to make changes. But however, going into this game against Ole Miss, if Alabama plays their best football, or they play up to the level of the Alabama teams that we have seen in the past, I don't really think there should be too much discussion about who will win this game. Ole Miss is one-dimensional on offense. And if you're a Rebels fan, be honest with yourself. If you can't have success running the football, you're screwed. Jackson Dart, he's been average. Okay? He's had moments when he's looked really good. However, he struggles taking care of the football. He's had a turnover in every game except 3. Not only that, but he's inaccurate at times. And let's give them the benefit of a doubt. This offensive line is really good when it comes to run blocking, but it's not all that great in pass protection. However, when you're playing a team like Alabama, you are going to be required to have to make a certain amount of big throws. It doesn't matter how much success Ole Miss has on the ground in this game, okay? Alabama has a top 10 run defense. Despite that, I still think that Ole Miss is going to have success running the football against Alabama's defense. This offensive line is phenomenal when it comes to creating holes in the running lane. Judkins, this true freshman running back, has been outstanding. Zach Evans, when he's on the field, he's a baller. And Jackson Dart, although he's not great as a passer, he's really good running the football. But when Jackson Dart has been put in situations where he has to throw the football for Ole Miss to win, he struggled. And going against this Alabama team, you can't be one-dimensional. Yes, you can say, JT, their secondary isn't great. Okay. But is your quarterback good enough to take advantage of Alabama's not-so-great secondary play? You still have to be able to make the throws. And Jackson Dart this year, and the majority of these games, hasn't really been able to make some of the big throws. Now, last week against Ole Miss, he was good. 13 of 20, 140 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, completed 65% of his passes. The Rebels win 31-28. However, if Ole Miss in this game gets put in a situation where they have to throw the football 25 times plus with Jackson Dart, they're going to lose. Against Kentucky, they barely won that game. Their defense won that game because they got a clutch forced fumble that they recovered on Will Levis. They won 22-19. But in that game, Dart, 15 of 29, 213 passing yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Against LSU, 19 of 34, 283 yards passing, no touchdowns through the air, 1 interception. Completed 55% of his passes, and they got smoked 45-20. So you see the trend. So for Ole Miss, you understand what you have to do. However, I do think that Jackson Dart, when he's asked to be a game manager, he can deliver for you. But when you're playing Alabama, there are going to be a certain amount of big throws that have to be made. Can Jackson Dart make them? Yes, he can. Let me rephrase that. Does he have the talent to make those throws? Yes, he does. But will he make those throws? We don't know. Now, for Ole Miss, defensively, you have to be able to slow down Bryce Young. And how do you do that? LSU gave us a good example last week. They slowed down, or they contained the Bryce Young magic. They made Bryce Young keep his magic tricks in his hat. You see, there's been a lot of games this year that Alabama has been able to escape due to Bryce Young being able to escape and just kind of make all these magical plays. Like, he gets outside the pocket, he's finding the receiver 40 yards downfield. It's like the dude always knows what's going on around him. However, when he does create, there are moments where he can turn the football over. LSU got a turnover in the red zone of Bryce Young when he was doing his playmaking or his digging into his hat of tricks, and it ended up being an interception. And for LSU, they got a lot of pressure on Bryce Young. We know that Alabama's offensive line has been subpar this year. So LSU did a very good job at containing the Bryce Young magic. not allowing him to extend plays, not allowing him to turn something into nothing or nothing into something. They did a really good job at making sure that Bryce Young wasn't able to buy time. Now, Bryce Young still got his. I mean, he made one of the biggest plays of the game, which pretty much sent the game into OT. But he's going to get his. You know, great players, you're never really going to truly be able to stop. You just hope to contain them. And LSU did a really good job of that. And if you are the Rebels, can you replicate that performance? You definitely have the talent to do so. You are one of the best pass rushing teams in this conference. You're 19th overall in America in sacks per game. So you definitely are more than able to do what LSU did last week when it comes to making sure that Bryce Young isn't able to become Bryce Young the magician. Keep him in the pocket. Make sure that he isn't able to get outside. And don't allow him to create. If you can get pressure consistently, you're going to be in position to be able to do that. And another thing is this. You cannot allow Jahmyr Gibbs to beat you on third down. Now, I don't know what Ole Miss can do to slow down Jahmyr Gibbs on third down, but last week against LSU, there were too many times when Alabama had their backs against the wall, it's third down, and yet here they are throwing the dump ball pass to Jahmyr Gibbs, picking up the first down. It's unbelievable how many yards Alabama steals by throwing these dump ball passes to Jahmyr Gibbs. And you know, LSU did try to stop it. They had one guy earlier who slipped. He slipped. He tried. He slipped, people. He slipped and allowed Jahmyr Gibbs to get the first down. And then eventually, it kind of looked like LSU just gave up. They kind of just like, you know what? Jahmyr Gibbs, you just going to get whatever. And if you're Ole Miss, if you can slow down Jahmyr Gibbs, plus you can contain the Bryce Young magic, your chances of winning this game probably increase to 75%. Because that just means that you just pretty much bottled up Alabama's two best players. Because one thing that Alabama does when they get into a bind and they really need a big play, who do they go to? Who's their safety blanket? Jahmyr Gibbs. Every time Alabama needed a big play to pick up yardage, the majority of times, it was Jahmyr Gibbs. And if you're Ole Miss, you get Alabama into these third down spots, find a way to slow them down. I'm not a defensive guru. I'm not a coach. I don't know how they can execute this. But that's why there's guys who get paid $1 million to find out ways to slow down Jahmyr Gibbs. So they got to find a way to keep Jahmyr Gibbs from being a factor for Alabama offensively in third down situations. I'm not saying Ole Miss needs to completely shut down Jahmyr Gibbs because I don't really think that's possible. They're going to find a way to get him involved. He's their best player. However, you can limit how big of an impact he has in critical moments. Force Alabama to go elsewhere. Third down situations, Bryce Young's first option, most of the time looks like it's Jahmyr Gibbs. And it's pretty convenient because the dude's right there. So take that away. Now, the team that I'm going to take to win this game, I'm going to take Alabama. I think a lot of people are falling for this trap. They're now believing the narrative that Alabama's falling off. They're wounded. They're vulnerable at this point in the season. Listen, in college football, upsets happen every week, and they happen really frequently. But the majority of times, the most talented team wins these games. And when you have a good coach like Nick Saban, plus one of the best rosters in America, you come up on top more times than not. Yes, you do have some losses there and some close games. However, the majority of times, the most talented team prevails. Alabama not only is the more talented team going into this game, but also I don't trust Ole Miss late in the game to take care of the football. Jackson Dart, if he has to throw the football to win this game in the fourth quarter, let's be honest, Ole Miss fans, do you really trust him? If Ole Miss can be put in a situation where they can lean on the run game to win, they got a very good chance at winning this game. Because with Ole Miss playing style, this game could become really close. And it could be decided by 3 points or less. However, I think Alabama wins this game by at least 10 points. So I'm going to take Alabama to win 31-20 is my final score prediction for this matchup.